I cracked the code with this sales system, and I did it in 17 simple steps that are going to map out the entire sales process that I use today, which have resulted in getting individual projects of more than $3 million multiple times. And in these steps, I go over prospecting, identifying the leads, reaching out to those leads, how to connect with those leads, what types of questions to ask, how to make sure that you get agreement from them, and how to close the deal. And 17 is the most important step, and you have to get to that one because unless you implement it exactly how I'm telling you how to implement it, then none of the other 16 will work. Step number one is prospecting. And this is the step where you're looking for those qualified leads, qualified buyers of your product, and people that you want to do business with. You have to be very intentional when you're prospecting because it needs to be a person that is a buyer or a user of your service. So if I'm providing civil engineering services and I'm providing construction management services for heavy civil projects or infrastructure, then I gotta be very certain that whoever I'll be prospecting is a person that is a buyer of my product. It may be a city manager, it may be a director of a utility, maybe a public works director, it may be a city engineer in an agency that have civil infrastructure and civil engineering projects. So what I use in this step is LinkedIn. I use associations in the industry, networking events, even social media platforms or websites. You may go to the website of the city of Miami and you'll find a directory with all the roles of the individuals that are in those agencies. And when you find those individuals in there, then you do some research. You study those individuals, you go to their LinkedIn pages, you get very creative in how to get as much information as possible so that you can really have a very strong database of prospects because this is going to be the basis of the rest of your other steps. Because if you do this step wrong, then it doesn't matter how well your tactics and your techniques are and your ability to communicate and to reach out to these individuals and to present yourself and sell your product because you are selling to the wrong prospect. So make very, very certain that this step is done carefully and very, very intentionally to get the right prospects. Step number two is to look for connections and common ground with these prospects that you already identified. And what I mean by this is looking for other people that you know and already have a relationship with or you're already doing business with them so that you can use them to make the contact or the connection less cold. It's gonna be cold regardless. If you're prospecting and you're looking for individuals that you don't know but you would like to do business with them, then they are probably not expecting your call or you reaching out to them, so it's gonna be cold. But the way that you can make it less cold and a bit warmer is by identifying connections or people that you have done business with in the past that are somewhat related to them, and then use that in your introduction, or even better, you will leverage the connections and the friendships that you already have today to get an introduction with that prospect that you're looking at. So what you're trying to do here is just make the first interaction a bit less cold. It will be cold regardless, but you can find common ground so that the introduction can go better. The third step is to set your intention and a list of 2 or 3 questions. This step, you will write down what is it that you want to get out of this meeting with the prospect. You have your list of prospects, you found common ground, now you're getting ready to start connecting with them. But first, you need to know, what do you want out of this person, right? So you write your intention. An example of an intention could be, well, I want to identify a problem that he's got with his roads in the city that he represents that I can solve with my civil engineering services and project management services. That can be your intention. So that will set the tone for your meeting and for the rest of the steps. And with 2 or 3 questions, what you would do is, what questions would you need answered that will get you closer to meeting your intention? So you will need to be very intentional about setting these questions, questions that are meaningful, questions that are not yes or no questions, but questions that allow your prospect to speak and to provide you with gold, with very valuable information that you will use later through the sales system so that you can get to the close and to your new project. It's very important that these questions allow your prospect to speak, in the case of our intention, about the problems that he's got regarding his infrastructure and what are the worst things that can happen to his infrastructure, what are his bad experiences with other consultants that provided similar services, what are the things that keep him up at night. These are sample questions that you may use through your presentation. Step number 4 is role play. It's extremely important that you come to this meeting or this call, this interaction ready, and that you know your information down cold. Like you can literally talk about yourself, your company. You can state these questions very smoothly without any type of rumbling or not being able to state your words clearly because you get nervous. So chances are you will get nervous, especially if you're in front of someone that you've been trying to get in front of this person for 18 months, and this person can really provide you with an opportunity that will change completely your life and the life of your organization and will duplicate your team, right? So chances are you'll get nervous. So to reduce that and make you seem more smooth in the call and a professional, then you gotta practice. If you need to practice 100 times, then practice 100 times. If you need to practice 1,000 times, then you'll practice 1,000 times. But it's way better to practice with someone from your team that is rooting for you so that you have a successful meeting than to practice on your prospect. Because if you start practicing on your prospect, then this sales system will not work for you. Because you're gonna go in there, you're gonna practice, you lost your shot, and chances are you may not get another one with this individual because this person is likely very busy, and then it's kind of a bunch of other people like you trying to get in front of him to get a new deal. So you may only have this shot right here. So you better be ready for this shot, and the best way to be ready is to prepare and to practice and to role play over and over and over and over again. Step number 5, this is where you connect with your prospect. You may do this via a visit, you may do this via a call, or you may do it in an email. The best way will be in person, a visit, or attending an event that you know this person will attend, or reaching out to this person's office and trying to get close to this individual somehow. And the moment you get the opportunity, you request a meeting. This is, even if you're calling this person, request a call, request a meeting so that it creates that commitment on both sides that there's gonna be a future meeting that may take place even later during the same day, but there is a time that has been allotted already to talk about opportunities for collaboration between you and the individual that you're meeting with. It's extremely important you put that meeting in the calendar, and now he's got that time that has been allocated to talk about opportunities of working together. So this is your opportunity to get that meeting on the calendar. best way to do it is the best way that's available to you. In person will be preferable. A call will be good. Emails, I'm not a big fan of those emails, but sometimes the only way that you may have a chance of getting in front of that person sooner is via an email. Just one thing that is very important here is that don't give up until you get your meeting with this individual, because chances are that it may not be on the first try. It may be that you saw this person in an event, then you try calling and you couldn't get him, or you try call him and he mentioned he was very busy. You saw him then at another event, and then you saw him at another event, and you still haven't been able. Do not give up. I have a video that I'm going to put the link in the description of this video on effective follow-up strategies. The holy grail, the magic happens in the follow-up game, because chances are it won't happen on the first try. So it will take multiple tries for you to be able to get this meeting in the calendar. So therefore, do not give up and do whatever it takes to get this meeting in the calendar, because it will create a commitment. Step number 6, share relevant information ahead of the meeting. Once you got that meeting scheduled in the calendar, there is a commitment to meet with you to talk about opportunities for collaboration. Now, the best thing that you can do is to share relevant information ahead of the meeting. You may share case studies, previous project experience, your technical certifications and your qualifications, a similar proposal that you have developed for another client that you believe will be the similar needs and problems that this client has. Just share a bunch of information ahead of the call so that this person can be ready when the time comes to meet with you. And you're also being very transparent about it. He's like, hey, this is my information. This is my data. These are my qualifications. These are some case studies. I would like for you to look at some of these ahead of our call. Chances are this person is not going to look at your data, or maybe he will just quickly go through it, but you will be already positioning yourself as a professional that's ready to go from day one. Step number 7, this is when you attend the meeting. And it's very important in this step that you attend early and you show up professionally. Whether this is on a Zoom call, or this is a phone call, or this is in person, show up professionally, right? Just make sure that you're dressed professionally according to the occasion in the industry, and you're wearing a button-down shirt, you got a blazer, you got a jacket, you're wearing a suit, you're showing up professionally for your meeting, and that you show up early. If this is a Zoom call, make sure you're there at least 5 minutes early, ready to go. If this is an in-person meeting, make sure you're there at least 15 minutes early, just to avoid whatever may happen. The elevator is not working, you can't find the suite in the office building, or you had issues with parking. Just be there early. It's good to be there early, because that way you're not rushing, and then it shows that you care for the meeting that's about to happen. Step number 8, you begin your meeting by stating your intention, and then you will situate the person in the room. So immediately you say, what is your intention for the meeting? An example could be, the reason I'm here today is because I wanted to identify challenges and problems that you're facing with your civil infrastructure, so that I can help support and overcome some of those challenges with the services that we offer. That will be your intention for the meeting. And then after that, you tell them what's about to happen. What is the agenda for this meeting? Well, I'll do an introduction on myself and the company that I represent, and then I will ask you a couple of questions so that I can get to learn more about your operations and the challenges that you face right now in your organization or your city. So now, all of a sudden, you took the mystery out of the meeting and the situation, and the person knows exactly what's about to happen. The reason you're there is because you're looking for problems that he's got that you can solve with your services, and you're gonna do a brief introduction on what you do, which chances are he already knows what civil engineering companies do, so you don't have to take a whole lot in that step, but you will let him know what you do. And then you're going to ask questions so that you can identify those challenges. So you already got him in the mindset that he's looking for problems and challenges that he's got that you can support and solve with the services that you have. Step number 9. Here you will present yourself and the company that you represent. You should not take more than a minute or two, because as I said in the step before, chances are that this person already knows what your company does. If you're a civil engineering company that specializes in design and engineering and project management services for civil infrastructure, he's probably already dealt with a bunch of companies that offer those services. But unless you know exactly what he's looking for, you won't be able to expand in your presentation. So this is not the time for you to go with your PowerPoint pitch presentation of 15 slides of how great you are and the 15 services that you provide. This is boring. This will disconnect and disengage. This is the time for you to give a very succinct and short presentation on yourself, what puts you apart from the rest of the other companies, what do you specialize on, and then move on to the next step. Do not take more than a minute or two, because you will disengage the person, and particularly if this individual is very high in the chain of command of that organization and has thousands of employees that report to him, and it's got probably another 10 meetings after he's done with you. So you want to make sure that you get all of his attention, and this person may have a short span of attention. Step number 10, go right into your questions. In your preparation for this meeting, you set up a list of no more than 2 or 3 questions that we're going to drive you closer to your intention. These are questions that are no yes or no type questions, but questions that would allow your prospect to talk about the issues and the problems that he's facing and the problems that he's faced in the past, what things he likes, what things he doesn't like. So here he's giving you all this gold and you are absorbing all this information. Every single question should be able to drive you and move you closer to your intention. The intention that we said was to identify problems that your prospect has in civil infrastructure projects that you can solve with your civil engineering, design, and project management services immediately. So your questions should expose these types of problems and should allow your prospect to be able to talk about this, right? One question could be, what are some of your biggest priorities right now for your organization? Another question could be, if there was one problem that I can solve for you right now, what would that be? Or another one could be, in your experience in the past working with other civil engineering firms, what were some of the things that you didn't like? And this person would already be sharing a lot of very great information that you can use later in this sales system for your presentation and for your closing. But you gotta pay very close attention to all the data that this person is sharing with you. I created a video on how to ask quality questions, and the link of this video is gonna be included in the description of this video right here. So after you complete this video, go watch that video so that you can get your questions down. Step 11, listen and acknowledge. This step is very, very important. Like, it may seem common sense that after you ask a question, you gotta listen to whatever the person is telling you, and then you got to acknowledge that communication, where it's not that common. It's not that common in our industry, and it's not that common in any industry. It's not even common in conversations. So when you're getting this information and you're being provided with an answer, you gotta listen very intentionally so that you extract the information that you're looking for. And as you're being provided with this information, you gotta acknowledge. You gotta acknowledge with a comment, you gotta acknowledge with a gesture, you gotta make sure that the other person knows that you acknowledge. It's very important that you listen, because this is where the person is providing you with valuable information that you will use later for your presentation. But if you don't listen, what's going to happen is that you're going to run very fast to your next question, and then you do the same again. You're going to run very fast to your other question, and then before you know it, you ran out of question, because you were only supposed to do 2 or 3 questions, and there is a reason why it's only 2 or 3 questions. The reason is so that you're present in that meeting, and the other questions that come later are from the data that you're being provided in the meeting, and that way the meeting is more intimate and it's more specific to the relationship that you're beginning to build in that moment. It forces you to listen and to acknowledge. It's very important that all throughout this presentation, especially right now, after you ask those questions, that you're listening and that you're acknowledging the communication. Now, step number 12, ask follow-up questions. Right after you're done with your 2 or 3 questions, or you don't even have to be done with your 2 or 3 questions, you may ask the first question, and then you can jump right into this step of asking the follow-up questions. Here, you will ask questions about the data that you're being provided, right? So if he starts talking about issues that he's got with some of his water pipelines, that one of them broke. It's a 16-inch pipeline that is under a pedestrian bridge that was serving a community. And because of the corrosion and that pipe being exposed, now the pipe broke and had a failure, and the pipe's been out for the last month. And they're trying to figure out how to solve that as soon as possible so that they can have a contractor come in and replace that line. So then you would ask a follow-up question about that particular pipeline, because that's where his interest is right now. So you would ask about when was that pipeline installed, and then he will share some information with you. And then how fast would you need this project done? How many people are being affected by this pipeline being out of service? What's the budget that you have estimated to be able to conduct this repair in terms of construction? What delivery method are you looking for to complete this project? Would this be a conventional design bid build, or would this be a design build project? All these are follow-up questions because of the problem that he shared with you, that now you're getting additional information so that you can do better in the next steps of the sales system. Because the quality of the questions that you ask in this moment will determine how successful you are in the other steps in being able to present a solution that is exactly what he's looking for, so that as soon as you present that solution and you articulate the solution, it's a done deal. Step number 13, present your solution and make very, very certain that you articulate the solution in a way that you make that problem gone. Like after you ask all those questions and those follow-up questions and you got all the data that you were looking for, this is the step where you articulate a solution to the problem, and you are using your services to make that problem completely gone. Like you presented it in a way that immediately for that moment, you were able to create a picture in the eyes of the prospect of the problem being completely resolved. And you did it very smoothly because you knew exactly what you were talking about. So, in the event of that pipeline that broke under a pedestrian bridge where they were having issues being able to serve that community, then you will present exactly the solution, how you would come in on board, meet with the permitting agencies, and begin developing your design documents, develop documents all the way to 90% so that you can fast track that project, get the approval from the permitting agencies at 90% so that you can move on to the 100% construction documents and get those documents ready so that a contractor can come in, put a price on it, the city can approve it, and then immediately they can begin construction, replace that pipeline, turn it on, and then get water back in that community so that the residents are no longer impacted. And you will do this with speed, very swiftly. In about 3 months, this is going to be completely gone from the moment that they give you the green light. Now, that's an example of how you're presenting the solution and you're articulating it in a way that includes details, specifics, time frames, processes that he can follow along with you as the problem is being resolved, and how would it be resolved, and what would the end result be. Once you're able to articulate that solution, then you're able to get engagement from your prospect during this meeting. Step number 14, acknowledge all comments, questions, and objections and clarify them immediately. This is extremely important that as you present your solution or after you have presented your solution, chances are your prospect may have additional questions, or he may make some comments, or he may have some objections. All of them you have to acknowledge and address. Don't leave anything hanging just because you believe it's irrelevant or it's unimportant. Because in your eyes, maybe that it's something that it's not important at all, or something that will be resolved in a matter of minutes. But unless he also believes that, then you're gonna be stuck in there with a roadblock that you don't know what's happening and you don't know why your deal is not moving forward. But the reason was because you completely disregarded a comment that your prospect made regarding your means and methods on how to deliver that project, because you thought it was something very simple that you could have just addressed, but he didn't think so. And now all of a sudden your project stopped and you are not able to continue to move forward. So it's very important that you're very present once you have presented your solution in that moment, because there's going to be comments, there's going to be questions, there may be objections, and most of these objections that your prospect will throw at you, I guarantee you, are invalid. There will be excuses. There will be, oh, we don't have a contract mechanism, or, oh, we may have already someone that can do that for us, or, oh, we can do that in-house with the team that we have, but you know they won't be able to do it as fast as you can. Or if they could have done it, they would have already done it, and they haven't done it, so there's a reason why they haven't done it. If they tell you that they don't have a contract mechanism to bring you on board, then if the project is important enough and is a big enough problem, then they do have avenues to make it happen and bring you on board so that you can solve that problem that they have. So maybe you didn't have as big of a problem as you should have gotten with your questions at the beginning. So this is very important, this step right here, because this is where objections are being thrown at you, why we can't do something, or why something may not work, or why your solution is not what we're looking for. So you grab every single one of those comments or questions or objections, and you address them, clarify them, and you get your prospect back into your solution. So you're acknowledging, you clarify that comment that was made or that objection, and then you get that person back into the solution, right? Maybe that, well, you know what, this permitting agency takes too long. On average, they only take 6 months in our experience, so therefore you won't be able to complete this project like you're saying in 3 months. So I don't think, this is a great solution. You grab that objection or that comment, you say, I acknowledge you, I understand, and I agree with your assessment. However, I've dealt with them in the past. Very recently in this project, we have a relationship already established with them, and I've gotten a project out of them in about 2 months. In the past, I will work with them again the same way, and I will get from them in writing that they will work with me expeditiously because of the great need that the city has right now for serving this community, that they will help me and they will get this to me in 2 months. And all of a sudden you have that, and you have addressed that concern, and then you move the person back into your solution, which was to develop those design documents, fast track, and deliver it in 3 months. Now, all of a sudden, your solution is real again because you were able to clarify that objection. But make very sure that you don't allow any of this to go without you acknowledging, clarifying, getting the person back into your solution. And very important in this step is that if you completely miss the problem, and then you start getting like all these objections and all these comments, and you realize that you failed in the previous steps and missed identifying the big problem, then you will need to go back to step number 12 and then ask more follow-up questions so that you can get that problem. Because there is a chance that you may have missed asking those follow-up questions and identifying the problem, and then all of a sudden you're presenting your solution, but it's not a solution that will work for him, not because your solution is invalid or not good, but because you fail in identifying the problem. So if this happens, then you need to go back to step 12 and ask more follow-up questions on the challenges that your prospect is having. Step 15, get agreement on the next steps. Where do we go from here? Now that you have presented the solution and you were able to clarify any objections or comments, like your prospect is on board with your solution, what's now? Like, what are the next steps? It's very important that you take this meeting to get agreement on the next steps. What are the next steps? Well, I'm gonna take this project information that you shared with me today. You're gonna send me the as-built of this pipeline that broke and any other relevant information, and I'll work on a proposal immediately, and I will submit that proposal for your review within X amount of time. Are you in agreement with that? Is that something that works for you? Would this be okay with you? Get agreement. You wanna get agreement on the next steps. You wanna get a yes. Yes, let's do that. Yes, I'm on board with that. Yes, I like that approach. Yes, I'd like you to proceed to submit a proposal to me. Yes, come to my office tomorrow with your proposal in your hands so that we can talk to my project manager and then we can get this going right away. Like, get agreement on the next steps. It's extremely important that you just don't state what you're gonna do and then you end the call because you didn't get any type of agreement. When you get that agreement, then there is that commitment that happened in that moment, and then that person will tend to follow through with that commitment. But if there was no commitment, then there's no need to have to follow up with anything. So just make sure that you get agreement before moving to the next steps, or agreement before you end that meeting. the agreement will close the cycle of that meeting that you had, because it will map out what the next steps will look like for you to do business together. This is essential for the sales system that we're going through right now. Step 16, submit your proposal within 24 hours of this meeting. Right after this meeting happens, then you're gonna go put together a proposal, and the faster that you put together that proposal and you send it over to him, the more chances you will have of closing that deal and getting that new project. I understand that there may be some complex projects, like this pipeline may be 2 miles long and it may have multiple sections, and you may have to bring other specialty contractors on board, like a surveyor and a geotechnical engineer and someone else to do a benthic survey because you're in the middle of a canal. So there may be several components and it may take you more than 24 hours, but know that your target is to submit that proposal within 24 hours. Because if you do, then your chances of closing are way higher than if you submit that proposal 2 weeks after you had that meeting. Because then in those 2 weeks, a bunch of things could have happened. Maybe he thought about something else. Maybe he came up with another objection, but he didn't share it with you because you allow for all that time to get in the middle. So this step, I really, really encourage you to put urgency on. Like put urgency, like make this a priority. This is the step where you just go all in to develop the proposal as fast as you can, and then you send it over. Why? Because if you did a very good job articulating your solution, presenting your solution, addressing all comments, concerns, questions, and any ideas that this may not work, and you did that and you put the person back in your solution, you got agreement on what the next steps were, how you were going to handle this thing. Now this person is excited, engaged, and this winds down. Like after a few days that he hasn't seen you, or you're not around, then he's gonna forget and he's gonna get with his other responsibilities and his other projects. So now he's not as excited, and the solution is not as fresh in his mind as it was during the meeting. So you want to be as close to that as you possibly can. Your target should be 24 hours. If it needs to be a few days after that because you got to get other companies and other specialties involved, then I understand, but know that your target is 24 hours. And I created a video on how to develop accurate fee proposals that I'm gonna put a link in the description of this video so that you can watch it after you're done with this video. And step 17, the last and the most important step, the step that's gonna bring you the new project. This is the step that's the make or break. That's gonna make it happen for you. And this is follow-up. The game is in the follow-up. The magic, the holy grail. This is the thing. Most deals and most projects will not close in the first try. But you already know this. Like most deals will just break along the way. And if you don't have a strong follow-up game, then chances are you will only get maybe 2 or 5% of all the projects that you pursue because they will fall through. So this is where you really need to be committed to your solution, your company, your project, your team members, your employees, your family, your group. Like think about anything that you want so that you can go through this step. But you need to get very creative in your follow-up game and make sure that you stay in communication with your prospect until you have already that purchase order or that authorization to proceed so that you can begin work and you actually got your deal. You got your project. Now you have your operations team handling that project, your project managers with your technical team, and that project is moving along. But you need to follow up and make sure this deal closes. This is where you do follow up with a phone call, a text message, an emoji, an email, a personal visit, a third party follow up. So you have someone else from your team do a follow up because all of a sudden this person is being non responsive to you, but you all of a sudden change the dynamic, and then you have someone else from your organization do the follow up, and then that may work. But maybe if that doesn't work, maybe you go to this person's office and then you show up in there unexpectedly, and you wanted to touch bases on the last meeting that you had and the project and the solution that you presented to see when we can move forward. And it's extremely important that you don't give up, especially after you did successfully the first 16 steps, because I guarantee you, if you successfully did the other 16 steps, you're bringing a ton of value to this prospect. You're really, really solving a big problem that this person has with your services. So you already went through all the work of finding this person, studying them, identifying the big problem, articulating the solution and presenting it, handling all the questions and concerns, developing a proposal in 24 hours, record time. Now you're gonna let this fall through? No way. Like, this is where you really get that commitment, follow up, and close the deal. And I created a video on effective follow-up strategy. The link's gonna be included in this video. Once you're done with this video, go watch that one too. So this is the sales system that helped me crack the code to be able to generate single deals of $3 million multiple times. And I go through prospecting, identifying the lead, how to do your presentation, how to identify a problem, present your solution, articulate that solution, handling the objections, and then presenting your proposal and following up to close that deal. I also went through videos during this video that I'm going to include in the description right now, which are effective follow-up, how to ask quality questions to drive successful meetings, and how to develop accurate fee proposals. I highly encourage you to watch those 3 videos so that you can complement and have all the information of these sales systems so that you can crack it too.